masks inside or out. The commissioners here are fully vaccinated, and hence we're not wearing masks tonight at this meeting. So with that, I'll allow Ed to do a roll call, please.
Mr. Salepis will not be here tonight. Mr. Cardophilus?
Here.
Mr. Magrino?
Here.
Mr. Wiley?
Here.
Mr. Mills will not be here. Mr. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Corbio will not be here.
We have the meetings in our docket for the April 8th regular meeting. Are there any concerns, questions, or comments about those minutes? Hearing none, may I have a motion to accept those minutes and approve them?
I'll make a motion to approve the April 8th, 2021 regular meeting minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and second, and all those in favor of approving the minutes say aye.
Aye.
Before some correspondence, I don't see there is any to be reported on, right, Ed?
None.
And site plans and subdivisions filed review.
None.
Is the agenda approved as it came in our binder?
Yes.
Are there any audience comments tonight not relegated to a matter that we're going to be covering? Hearing none and having no old business, let's move on to new business, and the first part being the Planning Commission recommendation for Venetia Pointe, the 2021 final plan, Settlers Court.
The Venetia Pointe HOA, and the president of that is Dean Marek, is requesting Township final plan approval for the Venetia Pointe 2021 final plan. This plan was originally approved back in 2007. And back in 2007, they originally recorded all 38 lots for each of these 38 townhomes. Soon after that, they sold one of the townhomes, and it became a tax burden for them. Once they sold the first unit on the first lot, then all the other lots that were vacant were taxed at that rate. So in 2014, they came back to the township, and through Planning Commission and Council, they eliminated all the recorded lots, and then they decided to record lots at the time that they're ready to build units. So they've been doing that for the last several years. As you can see, in 2014, we had a plan, 2016, 2018, 2019. Now, they're ready to build the 3 units you see in red on Settlers Court. So these 3 lots in this 2021 Venetia final plan get recorded so that they can build this 3-unit townhouse on Settlers Court. Originally, the 2007 approved Venetia Pointe plan was for 33 lots. Over the years, the Mardicks and the Venetia Pointe HOA has changed the size of the units. The footprints of the townhouse buildings haven't changed. It's just the footprints of the individual units have changed. So ultimately, there's going to be less than 33 lots. With these 3 coming on, will put us at 24, and then they have room on Anderson Station on the right to build 1 more 4-unit building. So the ultimate final lot unit count will be 28, not 33. This simple plan creates these 3 lots so that they can submit permits for their next 3 townhouse units. And this is a recommendation to council. Staff's recommending the plan be approved subject to Peters Creek Sanitary Authority's approval, which we have gotten their written approval on.
Okay, hearing that, pretty straightforward. Does any commissioners have any comments or questions? Karen, you agree with everything?
Yep, I think it's good.
Yeah, I could entertain a motion from the board if there isn't any questions or comments.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the Venetia Pointe 2021 final plan Settlers Court as detailed in the Planning Commission or Planning Staff memo dated May 6, 2021, subject to the 1 condition listed.
Second.
We have a motion active and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved.
Thank you.
Planning Commission recommendation, Old Trail Phase 12, easement vacation plan. I don't think I'm pronouncing that right.
Vacation.
Road Drive.
This is a plan that was initiated by Peters Township. We were dealing with 10 lot owners along this stretch of Hedgerow Drive and Old Trail Phase 12. There is a recorded utility easement directly off the back of the houses on these 10 lots. The 2 lots that you see that are blank, that don't have the shaded vacated easement, the one in the middle there that is not shaded has a storm sewer in that easement. The one further up top that doesn't have the shaded vacated easement, they vacated it years ago when they wanted to do a pool. So planning staff was dealing with a lot of folks that live along here that want to build decks and pools and sheds, and there's no room. There's an easement there, and it's not being used. So the township said, let's do a plan and vacate this easement so we can do it all in one fell swoop. So this plan simply vacates the unnecessary utility easement 20-foot wide through the backs of those 10 lots. All the property owners along there were notified that the township was going to initiate this plan and get it recorded, and have heard no negative comments about that. So staff's recommending that the Planning Commission approve the Old Trail 12 easement vacation plan.
Again, seems pretty straightforward. Are any comments from the audience? Any questions from the commissioners?
Where was this storm sewer that was going to be put in here, intended to be put in here, where was it eventually installed?
You see on the backs of those lots, you see those dashed dotted lines? Those are the easements on those lots where the storm and sanitary sewers actually exist.
Okay.
Why there was this other easement up there, nobody really knows why it was there. It was just unnecessary to be there.
Part of the plan.
Part of the plan. We should have caught it right out of the chute, but we didn't, and, well, now we're going to fix it.
Okay. What I'm getting at is just there's apparent there's no reason for this continuing to exist.
Right, because
Even a future use contemplated doesn't exist.
correct.
No other questions or concerns? Can I hear an action motion?
I'll make a motion that the Planning Commission recommend approval of the Old Trail 12 easement vacation plan as outlined in the memo dated May 6, 2020.
I'll second.
We have a motion and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Last new business is a planning commission approval. This is apparently a final approval for the Alex Plaza site plan at 4100 Washington Road.
For you is a project that should seem similar. This came before Planning Commission back in February for a recommendation to the Township Zoning Hearing Board. The applicant at the time was requesting 2 separate variances for the proposed redevelopment of this site. Ultimately, they did obtain those variances from the Zoning Hearing Board in February of this year, so now we're coming back to Planning Commission for the revised site plan approval. Mr. Alex, the owner of the property, is looking to redevelop the site with a 2,412 square foot retail office building with associated parking, landscaping, and on-site stormwater management. The proposal includes, like I said, a single-story, 2,400 plus square foot building, 12 parking spaces, 2 ADA compliant spaces, with a main entrance located directly off of Route 19 with a right-in, right-out configuration. It also includes a cross-access to the shopping center to the south, McMurray Shops, which is where you have Bartram House Bakery. Franco's is at the opposite end. And then it also includes a potential designated connection into Lakeside Plaza to the north. If you don't recall the conversation back in February, and the reason they're not connecting into Lakeside Plaza at this time is because when Lakeside Plaza developed, it was not required at the time to facilitate an interconnection in terms of having direct access with their parking lot to this site. Whereas McMurray Shops, when they developed, that had become a requirement of the township, so that connection was already there waiting for this site to be redeveloped. But with this project, we have identified a location at the back end of the revised site that should facilitate that future connection. If Lakeside Plaza were ever to come in for a revised site plan, at that time, we would have that connection take place.
Can you show where that is on the
It is,
the drawing?
yeah, it is right here. I tried to highlight it as best I can. They have an easement that extends to the northern property line, kind of to this top right-hand corner. One thing we have asked of them as one of our conditions of recommendation is that this easement basically extend to the entire property line and run the length of the property line, just in case, whenever if they do a revised site plan for Lakeside Plaza, if something were to come up where we need to relocate that interconnection, we just don't want to lose that opportunity by just not having an easement where it should be. So we ask that they extend that easement to the entire property line, and it gives us that opportunity in the future should Lakeside Plaza ever be redeveloped. In terms of on-site landscaping and stormwater management, they have a buffer located along the frontage of the property on Route 19. There's some landscaping, but the buffer would help screen those parking lot spaces from view from Route 19. It's a bit of an interesting site in terms of stormwater management. The applicant has had some issues finding locations to do kind of a conveyance and then collection conveyance and then convey it into another system. So what they've done in terms of their site, they have an impervious existing versus impervious post-development that is basically identical. And in order to accommodate the stormwater management because of that, they're collecting the majority of the stormwater through roof drains and through sheet flow from the parking lot into a mulch bed at the rear of the property, channeled through somewhat of a stormwater management feature on the back that helps guide the water into the mulch bed. And I'll let the applicant's engineer talk about that in a little bit more detail. But it ultimately gets to a level spreader that then is sent towards the back of the property. We've gone with the applicant through a number of different stormwater management scenarios, and we do think that this is the best alternative they've presented to us, and it is the opinion of the township's consulting engineer and our in-house engineer that this really does meet the intent of what we're trying to do with stormwater management. In terms of building design, it's a kind of a mixed material product. As this is what you would see from the parking lot looking into the building itself. It's a two-tenant building, kind of a combination of CMU, acrylic, and then brick pilasters to help identify those tenant spaces with signage above. Looking from Route 19, again, some of the same types of materials, that brick, the acrylic, and the windows themselves for part of the tenant space. One thing we have asked the applicant in one of our conditions is to look at some additional facade treatments for this portion here, because this would be seen directly from Route 19, and we've got somewhat of a blank facade here. Staff's initial thoughts is, take some of these pilasters, hit them at both ends here, and you create at minimum a faux wall that looks like a different type of tenant space. It just kind of helps break up that face of the building.
Now, if we agree to that, should we make that a condition and add it?
It is number 10 on my recommendation, so you wouldn't have to make an additional recommendation unless you wanted to include that very specific architectural feature. Staff is making a recommendation that this revised site plan be approved, subject to the 14 conditions listed in my staff report. I'm happy to answer any questions, and we have the applicant and his consulting engineer here as well.
So, Seth, when you say revised, one of the main revisions was having that interconnection.
Well, I say revised site plan, it really just means there's existing buildings there now. We're revising what that site plan is going to be.
Oh, I thought you meant it was revised from the previous time we saw it.
No, it's basically identical to what you saw back in February before they went to the zoning hearing board to request their variances.
Can you show on this drawing where the future interconnection is located? Because
Yep.
the other ones seem to be rotated. I wasn't.
It is a little tough But it's at this corner, right here, the easement extends to the property line, comes down, and then jogs back into the property itself. Like I said, we're going to ask that easement be extended all the way to the property line and run the entire length of it. But really, they've designated it here in terms of the grading and the existing easement location to get that future interconnection.
Thank you.
John, I don't know if you want to say something.
Yeah.
Go to the mic, please.
Come on up and
Introduce
introduce
yourself and
yourself.
say a couple things.
John Alex. This is my wife Christine, and through Alex, we're the property owners. We came here. I was here in February. Kind of talk about the plan here. When we developed that, well, I'll back up a little bit. This is the property's been in the family for what, since the 60s or 70s?
70s.
70s. She inherited from her father, and we kind of managed it for about 15-ish years. But I think it's time now to kind of get this, bring this into the modern era. So we worked with the township extensively. We worked with HM2 to come up with this plan. We certainly see that it would improve the area, improve the site dramatically, and bring additional value to the area. So and after a year or so worth of work, here's where we are. I don't know if you have any questions or thoughts on it.
Do you have any potential tenants lined up?
Yeah, we had a few. We do have some interest. One was a doctor, like a skin doctor. He wanted the whole building. That was, we received a letter of intent from that party. We have some other interest, however, nothing formal. So, but that's kind of the tenant we're thinking. A lens crafter, a skin doctor, potentially a cell phone carrier, who knows, but something along those lines. We don't see it as a high volume, restaurant or anything like that. I don't think we even have enough parking spaces for that. But something in that, a dentist, something like that is kind of what we're thinking. But we're not sure yet, obviously.
Is the elevation on the back side of the building, is that a blank facade there as well? This kind of protrudes a little bit further beyond Lakeside
Yeah,
Plaza.
it's similar to this facade on the opposite side of the building, but you're not going to see it from Route 19. You'd be hard pressed to even see it from the townhouses behind. So I don't think it's necessarily as important to improve that facade.
I guess that would be referring to the southern facing facade.
Correct. Western facing facade, I think. Yeah, regardless. Okay.
And that dumpster location isn't a problem for any of the commercial lines? And the HVAC, would that be roof mounted if the need is to rise?
If it needs to be roof mounted, we would ask that it be screened by a parapet wall or something similar.
And the fire chief has given their approval to the design?
It's one of the last remaining questions. It really comes down to the sprinkler system design. When we get through the building permit process, I think we'll finalize that, but it is his initial impression that they may be able to use a residential style sprinkler system, similar to what was used for the art studio on Hidden Valley, which is a boon to the property owner because it's a significant cost savings between commercial and residential systems.
Excellent. And again, I'm just want to remind everybody, this is a final approval.
Yes.
It doesn't go past
This is
here.
it.
After we approval, that's it. They can be done.
How's our highway occupancy permit going? Submitted.
Rich, you want to come up and introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Rich Kaufman. I'm from HMT. I am fully vaccinated.
Andy's 6 feet away, so it's double.
And I'm 6 feet away. Highway occupancy permit, one of the next things that I have to do is show them that Peters Township Planning has agreed that we can do this. As a stipulation, the days of going out and getting a highway occupancy permit without township approval is not there anymore. So this is another step to that. I have been coordinating with PennDOT for, as long as we've been working on this.
Sure. Looking at the distance between the two, the proposed and the existing entrance, It's tight for PennDOT standards possibly. Is it a medium volume entrance or?
It really falls under the low volume
Okay.
as far as your, really under minimum volume if we're just looking at the amount of cars coming in and out of it. However, since it's commercial, PennDOT requires that we treat it as a low volume.
Gotcha. Has our traffic folks looked at this?
Yeah.
They're good with it?
Good with it.
Do they anticipate much traffic coming in to use the next space?
We
or-
might see a little bit. I mean, it's not like the desired entrance location for the next center, but again, we always like to facilitate these interconnections as much as we can. If somebody wants to go to this center and then wants to hop over to the next center, they don't have to get back on Route 19 just to go to the next center. Makes that much more feasible.
What will the fee be for them? What will their traffic impact fee be?
We have not calculated that final number.
But they get credit
Yeah,
for what's
for
there.
what was
so
there. So that part of the calculation
It
is
won't be very high.
Oh, good.
not a lot of parking spaces, theoretically not a lot of trips.
And those both entrances, even the one on the adjacent property, are they both right in, right out?
Yes.
Yes.
I have a question. I can't recall, Seth. You have a 10-foot landscape buffer on the, I guess that's the south side. Was that on the previous plan as well?
I think what we had seen previously was maybe a designation for it, but this was the first time we saw a full-blown landscape plan. So,
Correct me if I'm wrong, but like commercial facilities like this and retail facilities typically have a front and a back, like an emergency exit in the back, right?
Like
if
a-
you work, I worked at Verizon when I was in college. Like we had a back entrance to take all the trash and everything out. And I'm just wondering where you anticipate that being. I would assume it's going to empty out into that 10-foot buffer area, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that would be graded flat so they could get out. You would have
Okay.
a step down onto the grass for an emergency access.
Okay.
But trash will go out the front door?
Yes.
I think what you're getting at, Commissioner, is that that's going to be a planted area of green space and a buffer, not necessarily.
Yeah, that's what I was like wondering if there was going to be a sidewalk or anything in the back, or if it's just going to be a pure emergency exit where not used for like trash or anything like that.
Pure emergency exit
Yeah.
is what we had planned for as far as the use of this.
Okay.
And speaking of trash, where's the oh, I see it. Okay. Any comments from the fire department yet about
No, the first version that we had almost a year ago, I talked with Peters Township Fire Chief several times. We do have the design vehicle from the fire department. We did show the auto turn for that, the vehicle movement. And the last time that we had spoke with him, the understanding was that it would be sprinklered inside. Prior to this, we had a completely different layout. However, it would be sprinklered inside, and that's still the understanding.
Have you worked out the utility service with respect to the electrical line? I just see an overhead. Is that what's existing there now? I'm surprised not to see a transformer. I don't know where you would put one if you need to have a transformer. That's why I'm asking the question.
If we're going to have a transformer, we'd either have to put it back near the building or out in front. But that's, at this point in time, what we're looking at was not to have a transformer.
When you get approval, or the planning commission approves it tonight, what's the construction time frame?
We're just going to proceed with the HOP. We're going to move forward with the HOP. We're going to move forward with the building permit. I've already working with some banks who are going to finance a portion of it. We're going to pay for a portion of it. So we're just going to continue to move forward. Can you?
I can hear you. So
No. So, yeah, there's
it's going to
no-
be this construction season. If
I
you get
can't- I
if
don't
you
know
get
that.
your HOP
If you mean, I mean, I would say we're hoping before the end of the year, we're starting to,
Good.
I'm gonna show up with a shovel and start digging.
Be a big improvement to that little
Yeah.
stretch of 19.
Sure.
Long time coming.
Yeah, like, I don't want to promise because I thought, this took a little longer than I'd hoped as well, so.
Again,
I'm
you-
prepared.
Stay optimistic.
Cautiously.
I'm
yeah.
cautiously optimistic we'll be digging a hole pretty soon. But there's nothing delaying us other than the process itself.
Yeah, we're done on it.
Any other commissioner comments, questions for the applicants or engineer? Having the audience, I will entertain a,
This is an approval, correct?
Correct.
Not a recommendation?
oh, yep, approval, excuse me. I would like to hear a motion if anybody's ready for one.
Sure. I'd like to make a motion that the planning commission approve the Alex Commons plan of lots at 4,100 Washington Road, subject to the 14 conditions outlined in staff memo of May 6, 2021.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Motion approved. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you all very
Nice
much.
to meet you,
Yeah.
finally.
That was a heck.
Thanks,
Big improvement in that space.
Yeah.
We've come a long way.
Okay, under the planning portion, we have a meeting going on next Monday. And Seth, you want to?
We want to take a little opportunity here to kind of preview what we're going to be talking about, so you
Yeah.
guys can come to the meeting prepared and ready to roll.
We have a workshop Monday night, joint workshop between council and planning commission. We're going to talk about general zoning and development regulations with some various projects that have been approved under them for our town center, our conservation residential overlay, and our mixed residential overlay, and how those tie into the guiding principles from the comp plan, which was approved back in 2013. I'll pull up my version here. You guys should have all been handed a version now. We don't have to read verbatim right now, but we'll kind of give you a brief synopsis of what we're going to be talking about. We pulled some of the key guiding principles from the comp plan that we think are vital to these zoning districts and these types of developments we're going to be talking about. We're going to first talk about the town center, which is kind of this zoning district here around the intersection of Valley Brook, East Prairie. The Waters is part of it. Waters is almost on the end. Middle school property, it's this, the town center, for lack of a better term. The intent of that district, mixed use, commercial, retail, cultural, entertainment, kind of creating that place-making focal point of the township. That includes streetscape amenities, sidewalks, pedestrian interconnection, pathway, all of the things that one would think about when considering a town center development. We pulled some key definitions that we've heard some concerns about in terms of building size. We talked about building footprint, floor area ratio, which basically means you can create so much building depending on how big your property is, and how that impacts verticality and those other considerations. Height of building, how that's physically measured. There have been some questions about the Waters building, and is it too tall, and how are we measuring height, so just so we're all on the same page on how height is measured in terms of what a story is as well, because those are interconnected definitions.
Just on that note, real quick, on that, the Waters front facade, part of that basement pops out
Right.
on that Valley Brook view from Valley Brook. It's not considered a story
Right.
based on our definition.
Yeah.
Council
The
had a
average-
tough time understanding that.
The average of that face is underground, so it's not considered.
The average is underground.
It's not measured accurately. So then we put together a table that breaks down the requirements of the town center district versus the development criteria that the Waters was done under. They're under their FAR by a decent amount. They're way over their minimum lot size. They exceed their setbacks. They're right at the building height requirement, which Ed kind of just touched on now. Some of it might appear that it's too tall, but based on the letter of the ordinance, it's right there at the building height allowances. So we just kind of want to provide a comprehensive overview of what the waters is, how it was developed, how those regulations affected that development. And we're going to leave it, I mean, this is really going to be an open-ended workshop. Staff's not going to come with any answers. We're going to be coming with, these are the questions that we've been posed. And we're going to leave it up to council and planning commission to talk amongst themselves and see if there's any desire to make any changes for any of these types of development regulations for any of the districts that we're going to be talking about. We've included in your handout, I understand it's an 8.5 by 11, might be a little tough to read. We'll have the big screen available to us Monday night to make this a little bit easier, but the approved site plan for the waters project, just showing you the building footprint and how the site's laid out, and then some of the renderings and design elements provided to us during the application phase for the project. You can see those pictures from the team. We have some of our own pictures as well that we'll run through for everything that we're talking about.
Do you expect to go through each and every page? Are you facilitating the meeting that way?
I think it will be much more in depth than what we're doing right now.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, you're going to go in order of your contents.
Yeah. And we've provided this as well. Again, gives you an understanding of how far out the town center zoning district stretches down Valley Brook, almost to the intersection with Bebout. You imagine there's all those houses that are kind of further set off the road. There's a pretty deep drop off there, but all that's zoned town center. Obviously here at the municipal building, the middle school property, there's quite a bit of property around this key intersection that is zoned town center that could be developed under these town center standards.
I can't recall where the church is not blue, right? Is it?
No, the church
It is
is
zoned something different. I can't.
the church is zoned mixed residential overlay.
Okay.
So it's one of the properties that it's zoned under something else we're going to be talking about on Monday night.
Okay.
With a low density base zoning with the MR overlay. And we would like for, post discussion or while we're talking on Monday night, we've provided some questions for each of the 3 topics we're talking about. We'd like the planning commission and council maybe to jot some thoughts down if something really comes to mind, answers to these questions about the different zoning districts and their regulations, if they feel that there's changes that we need to make, or some of these pointed questions about the waters in particular, or if our setback heights make sense, which is, when you're looking at the waters from Valley Brook, not the full height of the building isn't right up at Valley Brook. It's stepped back. And that's a pretty standard design element throughout, some of these town center types of zoning districts where you're doing that tiered approach so you don't have the full height right up at the street, and then you've got this massive building right next to you, and it kind of creates an environment where you feel claustrophobic or enclosed. We feel that the site is too dense. We allowed for too many dwelling units. Should the FAR not be 1? Should it maybe be a little bit lower so we don't have a building of this size on property of that size?
Hey Seth, when we talked about the waters, didn't we discuss the setback next to the residential side, not just facing the street as well?
There is it's a varied stepped back slope approach. Yeah.
Next to a different,
both against
different zoning.
Yeah, both against Friar and on Valley Brook. And obviously from the church property, it's a good distance away from that property line. We'll then talk about our low-density residential versus our residential overlay districts, both CR and MR. We've pulled the intents of both of these residential overlays. The conservation talks about, preserving green space, making those assets to the community, make sure we have large amounts of open space, natural features, those types of things. Whereas the MR overlay is more of a focus on variety of housing type, not just single-family homes, maybe you throw townhouses in there, patio homes, even multifamily is an option. comparison of the different development regulations for each of these 3 districts. Low-density residential, it's the standard half acre, 1.2 dwelling units per acre, 50-foot setbacks, kind of the thing that Peters was developed under for quite some time, whereas the conservation residential and the mixed residential overlay were were an outcome of the comp plan's desire to create more housing diversity or a variety of housing product in the township and lot sizes, there are different types of things. So with CR, we get into a little bit more dense of a product, 2 to 3 dwelling units per acre, whereas mixed residential, we're all the way up to 6 dwelling units per acre. I don't want to say all the way up to make it sound like 6 dwelling units per acre is like this crazy dense number, but it is for Peters. You get into other places and you get 12, 10, even 15 dwelling units per acre. So, and along with that, comes smaller lot sizes. Even in mixed residential and CR, we don't have a minimum lot size. We effectively regulate lot size based on lot coverage. So if you want to build a house of a certain size, you have to have a lot of a certain size. Along with those smaller lots come smaller setbacks, smaller front setbacks off narrower streets. So we get a much tighter development pattern that is intended, again, to provide for a variety of housing types, to create more pedestrian-centered environment. Just kind of a key understanding of the different developments that we've seen in both of these overlays. Just About Farms Phase 1, we provided a table of all the different lot sizes, lot widths at the building line. And if you recall back to this table, no minimum lot size, lot width at the building line is only 50 feet for CR. Majority of these are well beyond that. We have one here that's 50 feet, but other than that, we're in the 70s, 80s, 90s range, even all the way up to 100 plus, 200 plus. I'm sure those are corner lots, so that's kind of an outlier in that sense. A similar layout for Just About Farms Phase 2. Again, much wider, much bigger lot sizes than what the district requires. We go into a similar comparison table for mixed residential overlay, Brookwood Village, which are the patio homes on Brookwood Road, done by Cortez.
Yes.
Cortez. It's similar to Just About Farm, maybe a little bit narrower in terms of lot width and somewhat of a smaller lot, but it's also a little bit of a different housing product there. It's smaller patio homes than what we're seeing in Just About Farms.
So there's a few that are built already. They're building a few
Yes,
right now.
yeah,
Aren't
there's
they?
quite a few that are
Yeah.
gone up already. I think I switched my pictures there. Oh, we didn't include the table for that's right. We just didn't do a table for Brookwood Place because it's townhouses, and that would be,
Yeah.
it wouldn't make any sense as a comparison.
There's a bunch of, I was just making sure I have, Brookwood Place is the townhomes, and there's
Yes.
about half built, right? Something like that, right?
Pretty close to that, yeah.
Yeah, and Brookwood Place is the place, there's only 2 or 3 being built.
Brookwood Village.
Seven.
Brookwood Village is the one that has like,
I've struggled with it
The
as well.
patio homes.
yeah, patio homes.
But
They're connected, they're on the top.
what was I going to say? Brookwood Place, and for Monday, we have video of these
Yep.
neighborhoods and pictures. We're just kind of,
Been out there with the drone.
We have not been out there.
Not yet.
The fire department told us, if you guys need the drone, let us know. So you might see me
so
flying
we're
around.
kind of zipping through
So
here,
this
but
is
we'll have more on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to do this twice.
The townhomes are mixed residential?
Correct.
Because in the sidelines, it looked like the setbacks at 7 feet. How is that? So
That becomes between the independent structures.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I see.
Yeah. This is this
That's
development.
confusing the way
this
because that's
development
a lot right through that.
This is a highly condensed version of.
Okay.
This table talks in the actual code a little bit more about townhouses and distance between structures, those types of
Okay.
things. But that's an astute observation. And then we provided just some general layouts and renderings, and you can see the interconnection between both of the Brookwoods here.
That's Brookwood Village and Brookwood Place combined.
Yeah. We provided you and council
Nice townhouses in there.
some typical lot layouts for what we're seeing. This is Silk Lilac Lane, which would be Brookwood
We put those in there because there's a question coming, is there too much house being built on these lots? And we're going to show you that, what's that lot coverage on that lot?
25.9, allowed 30.
Yeah, looking at that lot, does that look like there's too much house on that lot?
Is that an actual lot? or-
Yes.
That's a
I think
lot.
you get that
Actual lot.
perception because it's moved to the front. I mean, like, people driving by think, oh, there's so much house on that lot, but because it's,
Right, so that's kind of what we're trying to get at,
Yeah.
is reality
Yeah.
versus perception.
Because you don't see the green space behind, you know what I mean? You see.
If you go to Just About Farms, we did this recently, we went to these people's houses. Yeah, they're quite up close to the front of the house, front of the road. But then you walk around the back, and you're like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
wonderful backyards back there.
Yeah.
Right, but that's part of the impression that you get because also they wanted to have the setback closer to the road. So you're going to get that feeling because you've said now the setback is 20 or 25 feet. So
We're trying to bring the information to the Planning Commission and Council so that you can see what's being produced in these new neighborhoods under this new zoning and get down to what we look at in lot coverage and setbacks, and you see how it's all coming together.
I think this is good because you can really relate to now, especially now that a house is built with that to that standard, and you can get a true feel of what does 25 or 30% coverage would be a little bit bigger even, but the space between the structures is 15 feet, right? So and all that's the question I wanted to ask is all this.
Well,
all
this
these
one-
have all been built without variances.
We've not, yeah, I mean, going to the zoning hearing board requesting variances for new construction is a total, different ballgame in itself, but we've not had any variances for any of these new developments.
Okay.
Not that I know of.
Not in the residential. For
With
the
the waters,
waters, we did a variance on parking size in the garage.
Yeah, I remember that.
Which was,
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I was asking about that because then it wasn't like we set a standard and they came and asked for more and more out of that.
and that's not even, the variance for the waters, that's nothing to do with town center anyways. That's a general regulation across the township.
Correct,
It's 10 by
correct.
20 parking spaces, so it's really
But, well, we've not granted any variances on any of these new residential developments.
It's interesting. That's the feedback you're getting. Is it that they're being too? But I bet if you asked the same people,
who live there.
or that, 9 out of 10, would you rather have a smaller front yard and a bigger backyard?
Right.
9 out of 10 people would say I'd rather have a big backyard and a small front yard.
Absolutely.
You know? I mean, if I could move my house 30
Yeah,
feet towards the...
you have to mow it, but you can't
You can't use
for
it.
anything.
Yeah.
Dogs just think it's their kingdom and they bark at it.
Yeah.
So make sure that
Make sure you
point
say that.
gets brought up.
I will. I think if you asked just anybody on a objective, would you rather have a smaller front yard and a bigger
'Cause
backyard?
It's the privacy element. Like,
They'd say, yeah, of course
who wants
I
to
would.
play in your front yard with your
Right.
backyard to play with anyway?
These outdoor living rooms I'm seeing and these pools.
Yeah, you can't put a pool in the front yard.
Right. Yeah.
You're not going to, well, the minute you have
Aaron
a
might
party
try
in your
to.
front yard, you're going to have a lot of phone calls.
Right, exactly.
I'd give up. I'd move my house 7.5, 25 feet off the street if I could add another.
Can you blow up that one chart?
40,
Yeah.
30, 40 feet to the
So
front.
this is my newest creation. A comprehensive comparison. Well, Ed and I's creation. I can't take credit. Between the conservation residential and mixed residential plans. What we're really trying to showcase here. Look at the amount of open space we have in our CR plans. We have a tremendous amount of, in terms of percentage and total acreage for each of these developments. I mean, Hamlet Phase 7, we have almost half the entire development is open space.
Is that topography driven?
It could be. Yeah, but I mean, the point is we're not squeezing a whole lot of lots on these parcels. Sure. Sugar Brook, it's not topography driven. There is a creek running through the back of the Rothar property that you can't develop on, but it becomes open space and a nice buffer to the houses behind and an asset to the development. We have
Yeah, Sugarbrook is, what is that, 42%?
42%.
42% of that site is open space.
And I think what I really want to try to highlight here is three things. The comparison to the overall township. Conservation residential number of lots makes up 2% of the overall housing stock of the entire township. and just under 1% of the overall acreage of the township. Even less so for mixed residential. We're at less than 2% of the housing stock and 0.5% of total acreage. So it's not like these are developments that are, taking up big swaths of the township.
But this is what's
Massing
currently
effect.
planned, correct?
What's that?
This is what's currently planned.
This is what currently is planned. There's certainly an opportunity in terms of overall the township mixed residential overlay zoning, but again, it's still not making up a dramatic percentage of the overall township. This map here, CR would definitely be certainly more than mixed residential, but again, its focus is on the preservation of natural amenities and has less of a density allowance. The last thing I wanted to point out on this chart, our standard dwelling units per acre for low-density residential is 1.2 dwelling units. In CR, which you can go up to 3, we're not even seeing a number beyond 2 dwelling units an acre. So we're not even really getting anywhere close to that threshold. Even more so with mixed residential, where you're allowed up to 6 dwelling units per acre, we're barely over 2 dwelling units an acre. So we are meeting the intent of this ordinance by preserving open space and natural features. We're getting a mixture of housing types. We get townhouses, patio homes, combo of patio homes and single family. But we're not really getting all that much more dense than what low density would allow anyways. And we feel as staff that we're creating high quality housing in the township that is just what we really haven't seen in the past.
Can you go back to your chart, Seth?
And this is all with
Please don't point out
sidewalks
here.
and walkability and all that stuff included, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and on Monday, I'm sorry, Rocco, you'll see more of that with the pictures and the videos that we have, that you'll be going through these neighborhoods and seeing the streetscape.
Yeah, and truthfully speaking, these open space numbers could even be larger because we're taking open space that is not encumbered by easements. So visually, it could be even more.
But the open space still includes all unusable property. Even if it's super steep.
Yeah, I mean it's got some steep slopes. We have some
Wetlands.
Sugarbrook, wetlands. Sugarbrook is going to have a nice centralized open space. Brookwood Place, the townhome, similar situation. Hamlet of Springdale, Phase 7 has a centralized open space that can be used by the nearby residents.
Because at one time, wasn't the open space, and I'm not being negative, I'm just trying to be factual. Wasn't it one time we didn't want open space that was just totally
Right.
Yeah, it couldn't be just all garbage. It had to be.
We try,
decent.
every opportunity we can to get functional open space. Not shown on here because it's zoned differently, but village residential with Westbury, we're going to have a top lot and 3 centralized open space areas. So it's going to be some real nice amenities for those residents.
Seth, great job. I mean,
Well, we got more to go through. We're not done.
You don't have to go through it tonight.
Well, we got these pictures. We'll put it through these.
Do those developments have like community centers or anything like that?
Not yet.
None of them?
None of the ones that we talked about have.
Refresh my memory, where is Sugarbrook?
Sugarbrook is the Rothar property. You're going down Sugar Camp, headed towards the Arabian Horse Farm.
Yeah.
It's right at the intersection with Brookwood. It's off to your right.
Probably the nicest laying piece of
It's
property
the
left in
The
Peterstown.
easiest piece to develop. You could probably go out there with a lawnmower and be ready to.
Oh, if you're going towards the Arabian,
Yep.
and it's on the right?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
gotcha.
Right across.
The one where we had to grant the guy they did the switcheroo to get his driveway on his property, who has that house back there.
Yep.
And yeah.
That'll be a future element of it.
Yeah.
Again, you'll see that again. But
Say
he
that,
gave him
where's
back-
that location again? That's
it's the intersection of Brookwood and Sugar Camp.
Straight ahead.
If you're going down Sugar Camp,
He lives on Brookwood.
yeah. If you
Go
live-
down Brookwood to
Just keep
Sugar.
going.
As soon as you come to Sugar Camp, drive straight ahead.
Yeah, just
You're on
don't
it.
stop, and you'll be
Okay.
right in the property.
Okay.
And you probably won't damage your car. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's,
that's what I thought. Okay.
we went out with somebody from the TV department. She took some really nice photos for us to showcase the type of product that we're getting in these
Those are
different
nice
developments.
townhouses. Nice townhouses.
You know, these are similar product would be built in the Strip district. The
Yep.
ones in the Strip are slightly nicer. They're kind of laid out a little bit differently. They have their own road to them, but this is,
Place.
yeah, we think as staff that this is a wonderful product in addition to the township. Model home in Juniper Woods. Waters of Murray as seen from Valley Brook. Again, there's highlighting that step back slope, step back approach.
I mean, nobody's saying we get rid of the setback, right? I think we got to keep the setback. I mean, otherwise you just have the south side.
No, nobody's
You know,
saying.
Otherwise you just have
I don't think
East Carson
anybody's-
Street.
I'm thinking you might say X-nay the step back slope.
Yeah.
There might be a question of, is it dramatic enough? Does it need to be?
Further back.
I think if any.
It's an open-ended question. Again, we as staff are going to have no answers.
Yeah.
It's a discussion between council and planning.
Are you happy with what's being produced under these new zoning rules?
Right. And if not,
I think
What do we change to make you happy?
my opinion on this particular project is that it's not so, I mean, there's a massing element to it. It's really a facade element that you're looking at here, which I think drives some, I don't know, some thought.
in terms of materials,
Yeah, just materials and, you know, the fenestration, particularly on the center point where we have, you know, a lot of those flat windows. I mean, it's just, if you go back to the townhomes,
I think it.
and although that's a smaller unit,
Right.
if you look at how the balconies are set out and then you have some differences in between them, it's the status of it. If we get to, that's a very,
I think this
invokes
might-
multifamily, right?
I think this might have been a little bit. I agree, especially. I agree with that point, especially on this view from the neighboring commercial property. I think if they had done the very top portions and not black, it might have made it look. You can't really tell that they're there. Then you kind of lose that top end, and you don't have that in that visual enclosure of the facade elements.
I also think the brick makes it pronounced. The
The brick
bottom
makes
makes
it-
it pronounced on the bottom.
I think
mean,
that was intentional.
Yeah.
I think that it could give the perception of.
I would have liked to seen some more breakup in
What-
along the brick. There
I
would
think
be
it's
some
nice, but I think
stones, some pilasters.
I think it accentuates the bottom of that building where it sticks out, and if people are thinking that it looks, you know, it's too a dramatic a rise. I mean, I think the brick adds to that. I like how it looks. I hope my kids send me there someday. But
I mean, you know, you're always going to have, when you're the first one in on a town center zoning district. I mean, this is the biggest element that we'll see in the town center for quite some time, and it was truly the first element. It's going to stick out for a little bit of time. Yeah, the landscaping needs to grow in, those types of things. But we envision, as the town center builds around it, that it's not going to stick out as much. It's going to become a part of the cohesive town center here at this major intersection, and hopefully just maintains itself as a vital element of that.
So just come prepared on Monday night to hear what we have to say, facts, and be ready to discuss and debate and interact with council. It's joint workshop here at 7 o'clock with council. And
so I noticed.
I'd like for you all to be there if you can.
With your thinking caps on. And
I noticed that we talk about the Peters 2022 comprehensive plan. Was that the name of the comprehensive plan that was done in 2012? Was it the 2022 comprehensive plan, or is it? It's time to do another one, right?
we're prepping.
10 years.
I know there's 10 years.
It was adopted in
Yeah.
December of 2013.
2013.
So in 2023 will be time
Time to do
to start another.
We anticipate an update.
Just
it's
an
not,
update.
It's not a redo of the comp plan, but a refresh.
Yeah.
Maybe some sprinkle in some new ideas, but nothing dramatic.
The idea behind this comp plan was to take the township to build out.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if we need to make any minor revisions.
And that's all we have for tonight.
Thank you, and good job on putting this together for
Yeah,
us.
no.
Very well done. Having any other comments or concerns? Anybody?
I do want to say my one comment on the waters. I really don't like that brick. I think it should be broken up with different colors along that brick, some pilasters with some stone or some other color along there. It's just too much one solid color. even if it was the same plane, it should have a different color there. And the other comment that I have on that is that slope going up to it looks a little bit too fictitious for me. It's like they just piled up dirt to cover up half of the
Your
lower
brain
level.
can't believe it. You look at it, and your brain's like, that's not real.
Yeah, you know, that's just a concern. I don't think it was, it was done in a way to be, you know, evasive or, you know, any of that. Deceptive is the word I'm thinking about, but that's my gut doesn't, I think that's
doesn't
an
jive.
issue.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of architectural issues, but the focus more on Monday will be the size, the setbacks, the
Yeah, that's
height.
all good, you know.
The things we can dress it up with is secondary to the
Correct.
immensity of the projects.
Correct.
Well, if, as a matter, if it's a figure, then I would say that instead of the average height of the basement, then maybe it should be like 2/3. If the 2/3 of the basement is below grade, then the 2/3 of the, you know what I mean? I don't know how
Well,
to
in
say
this
that.
case, that garage,
Mhm.
where the underground parking is, only 1/4 of that is exposed, because it's all underground on the sides and all underground on the back. So only
Right.
the front of it comes out of the ground. Therefore, under our definition of story, it's not counted
But
as a
when you say
story.
the average, you mean all the way around? Is that what?
Not
is
on,
that what
not,
you're saying?
any particular
there's no average in the definition of a story.
But
No, the average of how it's considered a story. You said it's the average?
Just read the definition of story, and you'll see.
Okay.
We have that definition in there, right?
yeah, I hope it wasn't over.
Yeah.
Worst face.
Hold on, let me just-
I don't know if you guys agree or disagree. I mean, I like the building, I like the step back thing, all that stuff.
I haven't read it, it's probably the average grade plane is what you're probably looking at, I'm thinking, that's where you measure the height of the building from. So if there's building below that average grade plane, because the majority of the grade is higher than the building,
Considered.
it would be considered a story.
But do you look at all elevations, or are you just looking at the worst elevation?
I believe, I haven't read this. so you
Yeah,
should
a
probably-
basement shall be
yeah.
considered a story when more than 1/2 of such basement height is above the average finished grade level measured at the front of the building. So that's what this is trying to showcase here.
That's
No,
the-
you're frozen because my PowerPoint froze.
Correct,
But
the average grade plane.
that's one of the key discussions on Monday, will be the height and the definition of a story and our floor area ratio requirements, as opposed to architecture. We all have different opinions on
I hear you there.
materials.
I hear you
You
there.
hear the beginnings of an architectural review board.
Right.
I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
You can't have those unless you're in a historic district in Pennsylvania.
Gotcha.
Is my
We talked
understanding.
about
What
this.
about a,
We talked about that when we were doing the overlay, the town center overlay. That was
We had-
brought up.
Right.
My first job in Maryland, I was the township representative of the design review board. We reviewed signs for compliance, with design standards.
That gets a little crazy.
Yeah, it was. All right.
City of Pittsburgh, I guess they have their CDAP.
They do
That may
whatever
be
they want.
historical. Yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
That's it.
Anything else? Adjourn.